In this video, I want to talk to you about psychiatric medication, my opinion on it after experience with it, what I think it is, and you can kind of take it or leave it. And a term I use that I'm fond of, especially in this regard, is to each his own. You got to decide what works for you and what doesn't work for you. You have to decide if you feel like you need the medication or don't. That's up to you. So I'm just going to explain my experience. I've tried all of them. I'll go through the list. Zyprexa, Abilify, haloperidol, risperidone. What else is there? Latuda. Anyway, and I've tried more than that. Here's where I'm at now. I'm stone cold sober. I'm in very good health. I'm extremely active. The medication in general is something I'll never take again. And getting off of it was probably the best thing I've ever done in my life. A lot of people get on this medication because everybody tells them that they need it. Or that they have to have it to function and that kind of stuff. Well, really what the medication did to me was it pretty much made a decade-long hole in my life to where I was extremely unhappy. I was extremely sedentary. And I was extremely all kinds of stuff. And the actual taking the stuff, it never really, in terms of what you experience while on it, it's kind of subjective to your own stuff. Like, I don't really know what the medication is supposed to do. I'll explain to you like what it actually does. Is it doesn't really change your state of mind at all. What it does is it kind of turns you in many ways into a sort of vegetable. So it makes you extremely lethargic. It makes you very passive. It messes with your hormones. It messes with your lipid levels. It destroys your sex drive. It makes you completely emotionless in many regards. It makes you very cold. It makes you distant. And I just don't think this stuff is positive, and I don't think it has staying power. And I think if people get off of it, and there's enough people that do it, they're going to eventually realize that stuff is not really doing anything. And I have my own opinions. There are people that want certain segments of the population on that medication. If you do get on it, chances are you're probably not going to have kids. You're probably not going to have a very fulfilling marriage. You're not going to have much sex the rest of your life. And those things are kind of vital components. Nature put them in place to make you, that's being a human being. So if somebody's going to tell me I have to take the medication or whatnot, nobody's going to tell me I can't be a human being. So, and there are people that like say, oh, if you take the medication, that's the reason you're on the street, is because you're not taking the medication. It's just not true. Once you're here, people don't want to hear from you. You get very little people. Like I have very few people in my actual close circle who will even watch these videos and that type of stuff. Prior to when I got on the medication, I basically was drinking pretty heavily. Though once I started actually taking the medication, I became my depression went from like a 4 or 5 to like a 10 or 11. So I'd always drank since an early age, until around in my mid 30s, I was doing probably a fifth of Jim Beam every 2 or 3 days. Once I started taking that medication, I actually started drinking as much as a liter a day. Just basically, and people give you ultimatums, we're going to put you on the street if you don't do this or you don't do that. And so I'm fine. I'm like, I'm going to have sex with women and I'm going to enjoy life and I'm going to be a human being. And if I have to be on the streets and figure out how to work my way up from there, I'm off the I'm not going to take it. And if I have to get a divorce, then so be it. So that medication is, once you get on it, and you get into the system as somebody who needs it, it gets very difficult to get off. And I'll put it this way, is that if I start taking that medication, again, I start filling those prescriptions, my Medi-Cal will actually just automatically turn back on. If I don't take it, the Medi-Cal will turn off. Literally. And I have no control of it. So as long as I'm taking the medication, I'll have Medi-Cal. People won't mess with my benefits and that type of stuff. So there's somebody calling the shots high up that has decided that I'm somebody who is going to be on that medication. And the thing is that medication is it's astronomical. It's $2,000-$3,000 a pill. And once you get on it, man, they're happy to just keep writing scripts for anything. Right now, the only medication I take is a blood pressure medication. I'll explain to you what I was on prior to my situation. I was on so many medications, and it seems like every time I saw a doctor, they wanted to give me another medication. I was on propranolol, which is actually an excellent drug. I was taking 40 milligrams 3 times a day. It's something I kind of want to get on again because it's good for anxiety, and it doesn't have the same addiction profile that a benzodiazepine like Xanax does. I was taking Zyprexa, I think 10 milligrams at night. I was taking losartan, which is another blood pressure medication. I was taking 100 milligrams a day. I was taking 10 milligrams of amlodipine a day. I was maxed on all this blood pressure medication. I was also taking what's this stuff called? It's the long half-life naltrexone that is used by people. It's a opioid receptor blocker. It's similar to naltrexone, but it has a really, really long half-life. The name of it is it's naltrexone. It's similar to what's this stuff? Narcan. It's like long half-life Narcan. It doesn't do anything. So people have this misconception that, if you take naltrexone, you're not going to get drunk anymore. Alcohol is going to make you sick. It's 100% false. Naltrexone was not really effective for me. I did notice some difference for about 2 weeks, and that was it. And I took it for 2 or 3 years and was still drinking a liter a day. So that didn't work for me. The only thing really that has changed and that worked for me is that I've had to make decisions that are like live or die. Die without this, die without that. Starve to death without this, starve to death without that. And I don't know if it's a cure for addiction, but alcohol drinking and substances are just not really in my mind. I can't afford them. It's a life or death decision. And medication, the people are going to tell you, the only way that you can get up or you can get yourself out of the situation is you got to get on that medication. But as soon as you start getting on that medication, doors start opening for you. And if you don't take it, those doors stay shut. So yes, I almost want to start taking the medication and just telling everybody that I'm taking it, whether I am or not, to just see what happens, because then you get opportunities. And I know there's a profit motive behind it, 100%. And that type of deal. I was so unhappy when I was taking the medication. I'm basically deciding to do this, and most people aren't going to understand it, and I don't really care, because I want out of the medical system. I want my name back. I want off of any kind of medication. Nobody's going to tell me I'm mentally ill. Nobody's going to tell me any of that stuff. And if they do, I don't want them around, or I don't want anything to do with them, because people do not have a right to dictate who I am and who I am not. What happens to a lot of homeless people is we're treated like dirt, just on a regular basis. We're treated like garbage. People come up and they treat you like garbage and basically throw sand in your face, and then you react. And because of how you look and your situation, especially with law enforcement and people they're always going to be on the person's side that provokes you. And so you start getting into your head that, oh, there's something wrong with me because I responded. But what happened is that after being on the street for a while, like literally having to fight to stay alive, I had a guy come into my camp almost try and kill me. And I was very passive, and I was like, oh, I don't have a right to react. And then I was like, this is just absurd. Like, I'm not crazy because I'm going to fight for my life. And a lot of homeless people that are on that medication and stuff like that feel like they don't have a right to just basic human emotion. They don't have a right to fight for their life. And they do. You do. You have a right to stay alive. You don't have to let someone come and kill you. You don't have to let somebody come and rob you. And you have a right to decide if you want to be on that medication or not. So it's up to you. Side effects of the medication I already went through. They'll mess with your estrogen and testosterone levels. You'll grow breasts. And they were making me, my intelligence was it's like it put a blanket over my actual intelligence and executive thinking. It's like I was falling to pieces mentally, psychologically, even physically, and basically 100% relying on my wife, and more relying on my wife, for my day-to-day life. And I wasn't getting better. I was getting worse. So now I'm off the medication. The situation hasn't really changed. When I was on the medication, I was having a lot of difficulty finding a job, but I was doing the social dancing that people want to see, or to not push you out. So I was taking the medication and not going anywhere. Got about a 10-year hole in my life. So I'm never going to take it again. I'll be homeless before I ever before I ever take that medication again. And I don't care if someone likes it or not. I'm actually considerably more happy, believe it or not, where I am now. I actually feel like a human being again. I actually feel psychologically, physically more healthy than I ever did taking that medication. I feel better than I have in a long time. I don't look like people want to see me to let me into stores and get a job and all that kind of stuff. And I'm learning how to control that to a certain extent. But what is good for me from now on is going to be what I say is good for me, not what somebody else says is good for me. Nobody's going to dictate what is good for me. No one's going to tell me what I have to or have to not do. As long as the thing is too, is I have no criminal record. I have no real criminal record. I have some drunk in public and that type of stuff, but I don't have any felonies or any stuff like that. So, I have no history of violent behavior that is legitimate anyway. So that's my video on it. You can kind of take it for what it's worth, and you kind of decide for yourself. I've decided to get off. And people who do start taking the medication, people tell them they need to be on it, they start getting this idea about themselves, like they're subhuman, there's just something wrong with them. And if you get in that mindset, it's just a self-fulfilling process, and you start believing, okay, I'm less than human, there's something wrong with me. It just makes and you adopt that as your reality. That's going to be who you are. So take it or leave it.